Good morning, and thank you all for joining us today on Bright Talk. My name is Rich Villasenor. I'm actually joining you from Southern California. So, a little background about myself. I'm the regional sales manager at Outpost 24, again, based here in Southern California. And something also that I wanted to share about myself and my past. I'm also a former deputy sheriff in a previous life. So today's session is especially important to me. Important because we're talking about protecting our justice community's most sensitive data. And today's topic being titled Lock It Down, Meeting the Criminal Justice Information System's Password and Advanced Authentication Requirements. And joining me today, obviously, is my colleague and friend on the line, Darren Siegel. Darren's Specops lead IT sales engineer with coming to us with over 20 years of IT and cybersecurity experience. So you've heard him earlier, but Darren, you want to say a quick hello?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Rich, for the introduction. Like Rich said, I'm the lead sales engineer with Specops. I've been in this role for eight and a half years now. How time flies, but yeah, a lot of experience with just in-house IT, consulting, managed services. I've kind of done it all. But for the past 8 years or so, been helping organizations with their password management challenges with Specops, and we've got a great tool set to share with you today for how that can help this particular use case as well.
Perfect. And I work with Darren day in and day out. Super talented, and it's going to be exciting to hear what he has to say. But first of all, just a little housekeeping and quick overview of today's agenda. Here's how we'll spend the next 45 minutes. And I think what we'll do is we'll start off by walking through, what are the CJIS Security Policy's password and MFA requirements? Still a lot of questions, even though the CJIS has been around for quite some time. But in my day-to-day conversations, so working with cities, counties, state agencies, there's still a lot of confusion. So we'll spend some time highlighting what that is. And at the same time, we'll share how tools like Specops software, specifically Specops Password Policy, can help your team enforce compliance, improve password hygiene across your organization. At the same time, maybe leverage your end users with technology that provides them feedback, that really walks them through the process. And more importantly, really highlight technology that works. I think that's the most important part that comes into play. And finally, because I know that many of you that are joining us today not only support law enforcement initiatives or law enforcement IT per se within your departments, but in most cases, you guys also support entire cities or county user bases. So I see that from day to day. So we want to make sure that we discuss real world risks like service desk social engineering attacks, and how Specops can secure your service desk from phishing attacks, for example, and provide you solutions that really let you and your team sleep better at night. So we'll be covering a lot of that today. We also want to hear from you, everyone that's on the line. You're our audience, and we're going to launch and pepper just a variety of different live poll questions throughout today's session. And I highly encourage you guys to participate. So it's important for us to learn more about your real world policies and challenges, and at the same time, get a really good understanding of what's going on in your world in this group. So the goal today is to learn from each other. We'll also then wrap up with some Q&A. So there is a chat box within your window. Feel free to ask questions. So if you have questions, feel free to ask them. At the end of the session, Darren and myself will go through them. We'll try to get through most of them. And if we don't, we'll make sure that we get in contact with you after. So let's get started. Darren's going to kick this off by taking us through the most common CJIS compliance requirements. What are they? And let's answer some questions for you. So let's dive in. Darren, take it away.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Rich. So this is not an exhaustive list by any stretch, but we wanted to start with kind of when organizations reach out to Specops for help getting in compliance. These are the kinds of things that we're hearing most often. So we'll kind of work around clockwise here, starting at the top left, minimum password length and complexity. Sounds kind of boring, sounds kind of basic, right? Like minimum password length, anyone can enforce a password length. We can, Microsoft can, anybody can, that's easy. But we want to think about complexity, and not in the kind of traditional, or now I'm almost saying legacy sense of, complex password. We always started with that, saying, like Rich said, I've been doing this for 20 years. When I first started, the password was just make sure you got uppercase, a lowercase, a digit, a special character, kind of jumble them around a bit. Maybe it's 6 to 8 characters long, right? It's a different time, right? When we talk about complexity now, it's really around blocking passwords that are easily guessed. And there's all sorts of different variations of how you want to think about that, but really, you want to have passwords that that don't have common words in them, like the name of the city, county, state that you are working for, being the prime example. But there's all sorts of other things we can think about it. So anything that would make a password easy to guess just because it's built around a single common base word. That's what we're talking about when we say length and complexity. We want the password to be long, but not easily guessed. Password expiration and history. Again, password expiration is nothing revolutionary on its own. CJIS is sort of an interesting spec because there are two separate versions. You have the basic and advanced with different expiration requirements and different length requirements. So you need a tool that, you may want a tool that's flexible. You may need a tool that can get you to that 20 character minimum length. You also want a tool that's going to do password history, and there's a couple different ways we can enhance that as well, but still we want to have good management of the password lifecycle. Next two, kind of on the right-hand side there, 562.111 and 112, breach password compromise check, advanced password standards, all that kind of goes hand in hand. But really what we're talking about here is extending those basic requirements that I just talked about. And now we're talking about looking for reuse of breached credentials, passwords that have appeared out in the wild somewhere, whether it's a public data breach or popping up on the dark web somewhere. We want to, organizations want to prevent password reuse. It's a known problem. We know end users reuse passwords all over the place. And if one of those passwords gets breached, we want to flag that and make sure that password gets changed. That's what that's about. Bottom center, multi-factor authentication. Very, very important subject. It doesn't negate the need for strong passwords. You want multiple strong passwords. So you want multiple strong factors. Sorry. So you want a strong password, but you also want a strong second factor, a mobile app, ideally something that's not easily susceptible to phishing or something like that. And we talk multi-factor. It's really at multiple steps throughout the organization, whether it's accessing your email from a remote system or logging into your email from your phone or logging into VPN. It could be multi-factor just to unlock a Windows workstation, whether it's sitting in an office somewhere, or if it's sitting mounted on the dashboard of a cruiser or something. We want multi-factor on those machines as well. And then the final piece, which is, I love to see it in here because it's something that I've been talking about at Specops forever. So it falls right in. End user education and awareness. We can have all of the best security tools in the world, but if we don't have the users on board, if we don't have the users understanding why we do things the way we do, if we don't have them understanding what the risks are to bypassing the rules or being a little more lax with security if they're logging into a system where we don't control the credentials. We want users to understand what is being asked them, why it's being asked them, why it's important. And just through using Specops tools, the users are going to naturally get that education. We, of course, want you to teach them in other ways as well, but they're going to understand with the use of Specops products, really understand why some of the things we're talking about today are important.
Thanks, Darren. No, I think that's especially important. I think what we really got to keep in mind is technology that not just is placed because you want to meet a checkbox, but technology that leverages the end user and really encourages the end user, where IT, again, doesn't just have to throw something else on the user base, but we're going to leverage the end user. And you'll see that throughout the process. But keep in mind, these policies aren't just checkboxes. They're real risks, and they reflect real risks. So I think the important part is that the advanced password standards update makes it clear. CJIS wants strong, unique, and unbreached passwords. And also, it has to be supported by modern authentication standards, and that's where we come in. So thank you so much, Darren. You know what? Talking about peppering in a poll question, let's actually get started with a poll question. How does your organization currently manage password policies today? Something that everyone here can relate to, and we're really interested in really seeing what you have. So you should be seeing some options pop up, and if we'll give you a couple of seconds to fill out your response, and Darren will kind of cover some of this.
Yeah, and at least from my console, it says the poll has been started. So, yeah, really, we're just curious here. There are no right answers, wrong answers. The answers are anonymized, so feel free to answer honestly here. But really, we're just curious for the audience today if there's any particular thing we should focus on as we continue with today's presentation. So hoping to see some answers there. And yeah, and it could be all over the place. I mean, these options were chosen based on kind of our own experience of the common things we hear. So we're just curious. We'll let it go another. Okay, let it go to the top of the minute here. I'll give it another 10, 11 seconds. There is one category that is racing ahead of the others, but I won't say what it is yet. Okay, we got a little more variety in the answers now. That's good to see. All right, I'll leave it open for a minute, but really far and away, if you said built-in Active Directory policies, you are very much in the majority of the audience today, and very much in the majority of organizations that Rich and I speak to. So great to see that. Obviously, with the Specops software that we're going to talk about today, we layer right on top of Active Directory. So we're very much in a position to help you with that. But yeah, let's go ahead and end the poll. And Rich, let's take it to the next slide.
Perfect. So we just reviewed the most common CJIS password compliance requirements. This is, again, coming from the federal government. But Darren's going to spend some time now, and he's going to review how Specops Password Policy helps enforce CJIS compliance. And not only Specops Password Policy, but how does other Specops technology support that initiative within your organization? Darren?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rich. So, Specops Password Policy, this is one of our flagship products. And like I kind of just mentioned, it is an add-on to Active Directory, sits on your domain controllers, and is able to enforce good, strong passwords. So as a user is changing their password, that Specops software is on there, and you configure it. So you say what the policy is, but if you say policy that says your password has to be this long, can't have any of these 100,000 dictionary words, however many you came up with, password policy is going to take care of that for you. So ensure any password change anywhere, that you are enforcing those rules that make that password strong, complex, difficult to guess. Everything we talked about with password expiration, password history enforcement, dynamic history enforcement, those are all part of password policy as well. And we'll see that again a bit in the demo. Breach password protection. Very, very important component. This is a huge focus for us here at Specops in terms of gathering and building a database of credentials from public data breaches and packaging them in a way that you can detect and prevent their use in your Active Directory. Where are we gathering credentials from? I mean, anywhere we can find them. Public data breaches. We collect live password attack data, so we run a network of honeypots that are scattered about. I'm not sure where they are. If I didn't know, I wouldn't be allowed to say, but they're out there. We see attackers try to break in. We see the passwords they're using, and that feeds breach password protection. We're also scouring the dark web through Specops parent company Outpost 24 and our threat intelligence team there. We are doing all sorts of dark web analysis, finding credentials that they're not in public breaches, but they've been breached. It's just hidden on the dark web for now. So we find all those creds, they go into breach password protection. And I said, we give you the tools to find those passwords or remediate those passwords in the environment. Client-side feedback. We talked about end user awareness and training. Here's
very important.
Here's a huge piece of that, which is as the user's changing their password, does the user know what the requirements are? Can they see if their password change is rejected, why that was? Or, if you're using built-in AD tools today, your user misses a rule, they get a generic message about not meeting length and complexity and history requirements for the domain. Specops looks at that and we say, there's a better way. So with a Specops client, or when we talk about self-service password reset, same thing. The end user can see the requirements and understand what is being asked of them as they're changing their password. We also build in, just to kind of tie back to something else about password history and password expiration, we also have built-in alerts so that you can inform the users on a schedule. So each user look at when their next password change is coming up and tailor some email alerts that go straight to them, letting them know when their passwords expire and why it needs to be changed, what the requirements are. All of that end user education should be built right in. So yes, they get a good experience as they're changing the password, but also we set it up so that won't be the first time they see what's happening with the password policy. Moving the same way clockwise around, Specops Secure Access. We talk about multi-factor authentication. Specops Secure Access is a multi-factor solution for Windows logon. That's either at the console or through the desktop, and VPN, or really anything that supports radius authentication. Specops Secure Access can extend MFA to those scenarios. So again, I mentioned it earlier, but a workstation sitting in a car, in an office, wherever it is, if you want a way to ensure that it's not just the password required to unlock the machine, that you have a strong second factor on top of that, Specops Secure Access can help you there.
Darren, I'd like to highlight that only because many of the folks that we work with, they have MFA tools across our organization, like Duo, Okta, et cetera. But when it comes to securing their desktops, 2FA at the logon, that's just a feature they don't either practice or have implemented. And I think this is where we can help organizations out very cost effectively also.
Yeah, absolutely, Rich. It's definitely sort of a lagging trend to go MFA on the desktop, but it's hugely critical to securing your environment. So absolutely something that we want to help organizations with here. So great point, Rich. Moving on, you reset. That is self-service password reset. So again, it's a multi-factor engine. And if you want to think about, we are enforcing strong password standards with password policy. We're detecting breach passwords with breach password protection. The MFA is there. But to bring it around, what happens when users forget their passwords? What happens when they lock their account out, either because they've changed their password recently and messed it up, or caps lock was stuck on, you know how it happens. UReset is a tool where users can reset their credentials themselves. They could do it from a browser. They could do it from a Windows client on their work laptop, desktop. And it's going to leverage a secure multi-factor process. Whether you're using the Specops built-in options, whether you bring your own MFA to that, we've got all sorts of ways we can help you there. But the user is going to securely be able to authenticate, unlock, and reset as needed. So again, helping them through those password challenges. And then the final piece on this slide here, we talk about passphrases. Passphrase support, of course, is built in. And when we talk about passphrases, we'll get to it a bit more, of course, but really what we're talking about is a methodology around picking longer passwords and doing it in giving users a way to think about picking a long password, whether it's 3 random words or something like that. We want to have the support for that. We want to have the feedback for that. Specops can help you there as well. But yeah, Rich, let's jump ahead to do the next slide, which I
We got another poll question.
Another poll question, yes.
Yeah, let's jump into another poll question really quick. What is the most challenging aspect of CJIS compliant password policies within your environment? Yeah, think about what's going on in your environment today, why you attended the session, and we'd love to understand. So you should be seeing these options: user resistance, consistent enforcement, balancing usability versus security. Maybe it's lack of budget, lack of resources, or bandwidth, or other. So we'll let give you a couple of seconds to fill that out.
Yeah, and if you're answering other, if you want to throw your answer in the questions, we can see it there as well. I'm always curious to see what else folks are seeing as challenges. So far, again, I don't want to spoil the results, but no surprises from what I'm seeing of the answers for the folks who have answered so far. Interesting. The last place answer just jumped out to first place towards the end there. Very interesting. And keeps going up in the score here. So all right, so let's we're at about the 25-minute mark. That's a good point to say. Well, I'll keep answering, but I'll talk for a minute here. What I'm seeing, top answer is the balance of usability versus security, and ain't that the truth? It's something that Rich and I, we've both heard it time and time again. How do you get to these standards without your end users completely losing their minds, if I can put it that way? So again, we've got with the end user experience focus, I think we can help you there for sure. The other options, no others, so thank you for staying in the lines, I guess. Lack of budget, that's how that goes. Consistent enforcement, got you covered there. User resistance, again, and that's sort of, is user resistance kind of similar to that usability security balance? Yeah, maybe not, but again, it's all about getting to a stronger security posture without upsetting the end users. So absolutely great to see the feedback there from everyone who answered. We'll end the poll, and Rich, back to us, I guess.
Yeah, no. What I want to do is I want to share a real world example of a recent client that we worked with. But let me share a quick success story is pretty much what I'm trying to say. So recently, after being audited several times, and I think in one or two of those occasions, this client self-reported that they were non-compliant. But through their search, through their vetting of trying to find a solution, they partnered with Specops. And this local government client is based in the Southeast, and came back to us with just some great feedback in regards to their most recent audit. And they really said it was this huge success. We helped them with a lot of the heavy lifting. This law enforcement agency in particular passed with 23 out of 24 CJIS controls, and they were super happy that they got to that point. With that, they basically said that Specops helped them directly comply with 15 of those password requirements. And I thought that was huge. I thought that was huge for what we were able to accomplish for them. They did credit some features specifically to the success of the program and rollout. Two of those being the dynamic feedback that our solution gives back to their users. So it mitigated calls to their help desk. It really kind of made the users use the technology that they invested in. And then the other big piece that obviously was a huge part of CJIS was the continual scanning of their environment to assure that no passwords, no compromised passwords, or passwords that they just didn't want in their environment are used. And that was a key to their success. Now, there was a couple of other components that attributed to just good password hygiene across the organization and good password policy across the organization. And one of those was our reset self-service password reset tool. They chose, even though it wasn't, a requirement for them, because they have so many folks in the field, officers, code enforcement, a variety of different management team members that are always in the field. They needed a tool to provide them the capability to easily avoid lockouts, to easily reset their passwords anywhere, anytime, without a line of sight to their network, without the need to be on VPN if for some reason that went down. So uReset really enabled them to do that, but it took it one step further. It made sure that whoever was trying to reset that password or unlock that laptop was who they say they were. So it goes through an authentication process, a secure process, and that was just a win-win for everyone involved. And then, we'll talk about just how we track this data, how we audit and kind of give you full visibility of your Active Directory landscape. But Darren, can you show us just a quick glimpse of the UI and at the same time, how are users in everyone's environment receiving feedback from Specops tool? I think it'd be good to see that. So
yeah, absolutely. Let's. I will. Well, just a quick overview of what we'll show. Of course, the end user feedback. We've mentioned it. A little screenshot on the slide, but we'll see it in real time in a moment. So we'll talk about what the end user sees. Talk about something we didn't mention earlier, which is length-based password aging, which is the user will see the feedback on this, but this is another piece of password policy where we can encourage those longer passwords by extending the max age of the password. It's requirements, dictionary. We're going to see all of that, but let's not stare at this slide any longer. I'm going to get the screen share going here. We're just going to bring up a Windows desktop client. This is just standard Windows machine. And sitting on this machine is a Specops client. Very easy to deploy. It's a little MSI. You push out to your workstations. But when we go Control-Alt-Delete and change a password, there is the Specops client. So this is just Windows. Process to change password is exactly the same, but with that Specops client, we layer on this end user feedback. So you can see as an end user, before you even start typing your old password, which you still have to do, sorry. But before you even start typing, okay, what are the requirements here? So there's a length requirement here. I've got some complexity requirements in here. Well, the traditional complexity requirements. You can do these, you cannot do these, it's up to you. A lot of orgs are still doing the throw a special character in there because it does help if you put it in the middle of the password, primarily, but it's nice to have that. We want to block usernames. We want to block consecutive identical characters. If we want longer passwords, and we do, we don't want users chasing that length by hitting the same key over and over again. It's kind of a predictable behavior, so we put a rule in to deal with that. We're going to see feedback on all of those rules as we type our passwords. So let me start there.
And I love this because it's really kind of giving that user that visual kind of approach. It's gamifying, I think, a lot of it for the younger users, but it's really walking you through what you're doing right or wrong. So
exactly. So now I've typed a password, which it checks all the boxes here. We see that length-based aging slider start to move. If I just say, oh, okay, well, longer password, I'm just hitting the same key over and over. So that, again, we get that real-time feedback showing as much as we can as the user is typing. Now, what's left to check is this middle section. These are rules that are just for technical reasons or somewhere between difficult and impossible to check as we're typing. Prohibited passwords, that is the custom dictionary, the words that I've put in the policy that says, I don't want any of these words appearing anywhere within my passwords. There's a breach password check here. This works off of what we call the breach password express list. So right away, we're going to check a list of over 1 billion known breach passwords before that password's even set. Make sure we're not on that list. And then the password history gets checked after we hit enter as well. Notice the password history must not be the same as or similar to any of your previous 4 passwords here. That number is user configurable. But the similarity check is very important because as we're changing passwords, whether it's just it's been too long, time to change again, or if it's this password was flagged as breached and we need you to change it as soon as possible kind of situation. We don't want users just picking the same password and doing these common incremental things that they do, like adding a character or changing the last character or something like that. These similarity checks, there's a few different things it checks for, but essentially if the new password looks a whole lot like the old password, you're probably going to get flagged there. But we'll go ahead, we're going to hit enter or click the go button there. My password had a dictionary word in it. So behind the scenes before the demo, I said, well, what if I was running IT in Gotham? You know, I had nothing better to do but set password policies. No, I'm kidding. There's plenty of good reasons to do that.
Gotham.
But Gotham City, and I put in all sorts of words. Like if I go back to the, I'll just show you what it looks like. I got some names of people. I got some names of places. There's probably a whole bunch more that or
a
more
great
subject can think of. But
yeah, a great area I think to add abbreviations, NYPD, LAPD, LVPD, just words that you just don't want in your environment. That's common jargon within your department. So you know what those are. We don't. This is just a little feature that we give you to populate on your own.
Exactly, Rich. Yeah. I guess GPD I could have put in here as well, but think about where you work. Obviously, the city, county, state that you are working within. All of the common, the sports teams' names, the mascots, the big player names for the teams that are in your area. There's probably a lot of you probably work in a building that's named after somebody, like those kinds of names. Put them in the custom dictionary. We're going to prevent any password containing any of these words from appearing in a password. And it's also going to do some dynamic checks. So I've got an eye on the clock here. We've got 10 minutes left. I'm going to show you just one more example of what we can do here. I'm going to use the same dictionary word, but I'm going to do some character substitutions on it. Now, you just saw in the dictionary, I just had GOTHAM in there, but the engine can also support about 15 of these common character substitutions, zeros for O's, at for A, 3 for E. All those common permutations are checked for automatically as well. So it's a very dynamic, powerful tool for preventing those easily guessed passwords and for letting your users know exactly why their password might have been reached. All right, with an eye on the clock, of course, there's plenty more I could show you, but Rich, let's take it to the next slide and let the screen share here.
Definitely. Okay, perfect. So we'll continue with best practices and just as a quick review. So just a recap of what we've covered today, right? So just a couple of things in light of what Darren had talked about. Don't want to be redundant, but I do want to give you some examples. We talked about the breach password detection feature. Again, I differentiate this as the world's largest breach password protection database. The way we update this, the way we treat this internally, it's treated as a separate product. So we're going to make sure that you have the latest and greatest protection from anything that's hit the news, and that's super important. Right below that, supporting secure passphrases. Keep in mind that what Darren showed you was an example of the minimum and maximum requirements within CJIS. We obviously recommend the advanced standards following the NIST standards, which is a minimum of 20 characters for a password. Let's not intimidate our users by thinking that they're just going to have a 20 character password with just a string of random characters, letters, and numbers. We're really thinking about educating your users on combining words that are relevant to them. And if they do that, if you come up with a combination of words, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 words that are relevant to each individual, they really become unique. They really become easier to remember, and the muscle memory kicks in as soon as they type in that new password. So I kind of like to emphasize that. We talked about MFA. We talked about the 2FA options within your organization if you don't have something like that already. And then I think on the data side, again, we also include something that is super popular. It's called the Specops Auditor. And this tool itself really gives you full visibility of your entire Active Directory landscape. So something that we'll also highlight in a couple of minutes. But last but not least, I think the most important part too that we also want to highlight, because of everything that's been going on in the news recently, with recent events in regards to cyber attacks, is really training your service desk on social engineering and kind of what's going on, and preparing them to look out for red flags. And I think that's important. I just want to quickly highlight that. So I think the important part that we really come into play is these criminals are really trying to bypass the technical controls of every organization, and they're really banking on the human error element, the human layer part. And this is where we come in. We basically can help your organization with a piece of technology that takes the human element out of it, and it really leverages a piece of technology to authenticate every single user that's calling into the help desk. So just in a recent example, attackers impersonated internal staff via a spoofed email, and they called the service desk claiming to be locked out of their computer. Again, keep in mind, these guys, these threat actors, do this as a full-time basis. I mean, they're really placing their bets on being persistent, calling as many times as they can within one organization, and really looking for that one mistake, catching that, perhaps that employee on a bad day. But in all these recent examples that have happened, again, there's been no technology that they've incorporated to try to breach the organization. There's no phishing links, there's no malware involved. It's just social engineering. That's all they're doing. And they're really banking on the human error element. So, Darren, anything else you want to touch on just in regards to red flags and how our service desk solution can help these organizations?
No, Rich, I think you said it perfectly. And again, with the eye on the clock, I don't want to talk. I'm not going to talk too much more here. But yeah, I think it's really, and this is something that there's a certain, Clorox was in the news last week, and Marks and Spencer and all these other retailers. Marks and Spencer, big UK retailer that I'd never heard of until that happened. But it's happening everywhere. There's one big attacker group known as Scattered Spider, you may have heard of, that's doing social engineering attacks. But I'm sure there are others out there. There could be intimidators out there, because unfortunately it's been successful. So just keep in mind, we want good passwords. We want good, strong MFA on top of that. But that service desk can potentially, clearly has been for a lot of work, has been a blind spot, because if your service desk is giving away passwords and bypassing MFA, then it's all for naught. So just want to leave that thought with you here. But Rich, I think that brings us to our last slide and questions. There is one question which has been here for a while. Apologies, I'm just seeing it now, but I do see the timestamp. Very good question. How do we balance CJIS requirements with usability, especially in squad cars? MFA and long passwords aren't quick squad cars. Very good question. Absolutely a very important use case. The individual driving that squad car's got a lot to keep track of, no doubt. What I would say there is, how do we make these things usable? We want a strong password, but think about that passphrase model, something that when you build a passphrase, we teach our users to say, pick 3 or 4 random words, not Gotham City Police Department. Those are not random. But pick, draw from your experience. If you're a music fan, if you're a movie fan, your favorite book, don't put the names of those, but draw something from there. Find some words that are memorable to you from a couple different sources and stick them together. And that's your passphrase. It's going to be very easy to remember. And because it's largely based on words, very easy to type. You're not going to be hunting, trying to remember shift what number to get that special character. You just type it like you're typing anything, like you're typing an email, and you're in. Multi-factor, of course, also has to be easy. Specops Secure Access is going to be my favorite option. Is the mobile phone option, where it's just after you type in that easy to type passphrase, you get a push to your phone. Hit confirm. You do your biometrics, Face ID, fingerprint, whatever phone it has, and you're in. The whole process takes a few seconds. We also support, YubiKeys and other quick options, but really, it's a great question, and yeah, between some training on how to set that easily typed, easily remembered passwords, and choosing a multi-factor tool that is easy to use, I think you can strike a pretty good balance there. But yeah, great. Thank you for that question. Um,
Darren, I think we have one more question before we got to jump to just closing this out. But can you integrate SpecOps with Entra or third-party MFA tools?
Great question. SpecOps, you reset and secure service desk. When we talk about self-service password reset, we talk about verifying callers. We integrate directly with a number of enterprise multi-factor solutions. Entra ID is certainly on the list. You'll see Duo, Okta, Ping, Symantec. We integrate with all of those. There may be some more coming that I'm not allowed to talk about. So if there's something that you're using today that you're interested in, definitely reach out, and we may be able to still help you out. But yeah, the goal of those solutions is all around quick wins, ease of use, leveraging the existing MFA you already have in your environment to reset passwords and verify help desk callers. So yeah, that's a great question.
Awesome. And in the interest of time, what we'll do is we'll make sure to reply to any outstanding questions offline through your reps. So again, appreciate the questions that were coming in. Just again, I guess to close out again and be respectful of your time, we really appreciate you guys joining us today. As a cybersecurity professional and a former deputy, I've seen firsthand how things can go wrong with one weak password being compromised. So SpecOps gives you visibility, we give you control, and we help you pass those audits with confidence. Darren, anything else you wanted to add to that?
We're out of time. I could talk all day about this. This is obviously something I'm passionate about. I wouldn't have been with SpecOps so long if it wasn't. So, I would love for anyone who's interested, intrigued by what you've seen today to reach out and talk in more detail, because this is important stuff. It might seem basic, but it's hugely critical. It could be a huge, easy win, not only for compliance, but just for general security of your network. Because like Rich said, one lead credential is all it takes for you to have a really bad day, and we'd like to do all we can to help prevent that.
Thanks, Darren. And one last thing I'd like to kind of leave you with. We invite everyone to try us out. There's a complimentary download of something that's called the SpecOps Auditor on our website, specopsoft.com, and that's with 2 S's. Visit our website, download the software, try it out in your environment. You'll get a really good look and feel for what SpecOps is all about. And at the same time, I also just want to highlight that we are having a summer promotion. So if you're considering adding a tool to help with your CJIS compliance, visit our website, leave your contact information, and we'll make sure that we get in contact with you. We're having a great promotion for all licensing that commits by August 30th. We'd love to tell you more about it, provide you information, and pretty much go from there. So thanks again for joining us, and thank you for everything you do protecting our communities. Stay safe, and let's lock it down.